2021, I extend a warm welcome to you all. Let us commence this program with an invocation sung by Mrs. Shreya Kari.
या कुन्देन्दुतुषारहार धवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रावृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्कर प्रभृतिभिर्देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा शुक्लां ब्रह्मविचारसार परमाम् आद्यां जगद्व्यापिनीं वीणापुस्तकधारिणीं मभयदाम् जाड्यान्धकारापहा हस्ते स्फाटिकमालिकां विदधतीं पद्मासने संस्थितां वन्दे तां परमेश्वरीं भगवतीं बुद्धिप्रदां शारदाम्.
Namaskar and Suswagatam. This is the milestone event that we have this year, which is the 10th anniversary of the Science Film Festival of India. And to match this particular milestone, we have a host of different programs that we have organized in this year's SCI-FFI, or Science Film Festival of India, which will be Science Film Festival of India 2025. I welcome you all for this curtain raiser, where we are going to give you a little bit of idea of what we are going to cover up in the SCI-FFI 2025. And to that I will request Professor Godse, the Vice Chairman of our SCI-FFI event, to later on talk about it all. It would be appropriate at this point to actually welcome all the dignitaries who have come here all the way from South Goa onwards, all the way from Calicut as well. So we have Professor Dr. Abdul Salam, who has been the the former Vice Chancellor of Calicut University. We also have Sri Ganeshji Bhatt, and along with me, they are all members of the Executive Council of the University of Goa. Today, for some very peculiar reason which we will not be able to explain more about, but because of some compulsion of circumstances, our chairman, the beloved Vice Chancellor of Goa University, has had to proceed to Kochi, and rescheduling of his flight has actually made the entire program topsy-turvy. So you find there was a delay in the program because we were wondering whether he would be able to make it or not. But his wishes, his warmth and his entire dedication to this particular event is always with us, and he has conveyed his bestest of the regards to all of us here for the curtain raiser function. As you all may be aware by now, we are going to have our Science Film Festival of India 2025, the 10th anniversary event, where the inauguration will be done by Dr. with Soumya Swaminathan, an august personality by herself, the former Director General, Vice Chair and Director General of World Health Organization, and Chief Scientist, which was a new post created in her honor when she took over the operations of World Health Organization. And Dr. Swaminathan happens to be the eldest daughter of Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, the father of the Green Revolution of India, whose 100th birth anniversary, that is, whose centenary we are observing in 2025, which falls in September 2025. And to commemorate all this, we have organized a series of 100 different pre-fest sessions or lectures of eminent scientists and personalities from our eminent partners like NIO and ICAR and of course University of Goa and colleges of Goa University, etc. to be conducted all across the breadth and length of Goa, right from Kankona to northmost tip of Goa, Godamarga. In this we will have Dr. Soumya Swaminathan covering the 101st lecture, which is the culmination of all the lectures, where she will be talking about herself, her father, her upbringing, and what Dr. Swaminathan was to us and the world. As one of my very close friends, and many of you know him, Dr. Jos Romanov Halero, another celebrity in his own way, and an eminent life science scientist, especially in the field of agriculture. He was quite irritated about the fact that, I don't know why, but if the same Professor Swaminathan was in the Western countries, he would have been a Nobel laureate. So I then calmed him down. I said, no, don't worry, Dr. Falero. We have our own ways of celebrating our own eminent scientists. I will be failing in my duties to mention that besides Dr. Salam and Mr. Bhatt, we also have with us Dr. Kishore Lekar, the principal of PES. We have Dr. Suresh Kunkalkar, the director and principal of Goa College of Agriculture. I would say the founder, director and principal of Goa College of Agriculture, with whom I am working at close distance to help us develop a wonderful agricultural ethos in the state of Goa. We have Dr. Arun Saran with us, besides many others, and Dr. Manoj Borkar with us. And last but not the least, the most important of today's most eminent of the personalities is the foster son, as I would call it, of Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, Dr. Sanjay Ji Deshmukh. I wish, yeah, and who has been the former Vice Chancellor of Mumbai University and now continues to devote and dedicate his entire time and life for the cause of life sciences with his control, his hold and his eminence in 5 different disciplines of life sciences itself. He has worked with Dr. Untawale, and of course he has worked for almost 5-6 years with Dr. Swaminathan himself, and his sisterly relationship with Dr. Soumyaji and other 2 sisters of Dr. Swaminathan. We are fortunate that we have Dr. Sanjay Ji with us, and whose keynote address we will have in the next few minutes to come. Warm welcome to all of you, having spent your time and efforts to come here and let us share the joy of this particular curtain raiser, where Dr. Suhas Godse sir will be taking over from me now to elicit about what all is going to be SCI-FFI 2025, an immemorable one for the 10th year that we are celebrating, a milestone. Thank you very much, and once again a warm welcome. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Professor Sanjay Deshmukh, Professor Abdul Salam, all dignitaries in this gathering, and the lovers of science who are gathered here. You have been already formally welcomed, and I would express my gratitude that you are all here for the curtain raiser event of Science Film Festival, SCI-FFI popularly known as, 2025. It's not that we are 1 year in advance, it's that there are just 2 months and we are already panicked how we are going to manage everything in this short period. Well, it will happen. I say it will happen very confidently because way back in 2015, Vigyan Bharati organized Bharatiya Vigyan Sammelan in Kala Academy and the adjacent grounds. Great success it was. And that was a time that the then CM of Goa, late Manohar Parrikar, and our mentor, a philosopher, a guide, the National Organizing Secretary of Vigyan Bharati, Jayatrao Sahasrabuddhe, they came out with the idea that let Goa have something to do with science in addition to the normal film festival. And thus the idea was born. Though we started preparing well in advance, then that was not happening, and ultimately within a span of about a month or so, we rushed through and the first science film festival happened. And we said this is the flagship program of Vigyan Parishad, which is Goa State Unit of Vigyan Bharati. That's the name we are given, and that's the name by which we are registered. But we are part of Vigyan Bharati. Well, that was a great experience. Shortcomings were there, but we were able to reach out almost 3,000 people in the first go. And then came the improvement, improvisations, additions, and so on, new ideas coming in. And from that, we did not stop, even during the years of COVID, believe me. Even during just the lockdown had been lifted, and we took that opportunity. There was a very good attendance, though we had to curtail it to just 2 days, but it happened. So over the last 9 years, there has been no break in this event. And every time something more is added, it has been made more and more rich. And so much so that this year, the additional thing is people from all over the country will come here, of course, by invitation. They will come here, see how we organize it, and this message will be taken over the country. So it's a proud thing. And I must tell here that Vigyan Bharati, when it has to do some experiment, they do it in Goa. It's a big, I should say, appreciation of the people here, the state, the government mechanism, or government machinery. Everything works in synchronization, and then it comes out very nicely. And thus, India International Science Festival 2021, it appeared to be an impossible task because we were just coming out of COVID. But in just 20 to 25 days, that huge mammoth event was successfully completed in our Goa, during which 3 Guinness records were established. You can imagine. So that is Vigyan Bharati and Vigyan Parishad Goa. There are several activities. I will not talk about it now. But what are we going to do this year? What is special about this year? Every year for the science festival, there is a theme. Like 1 year there was something about taking innovation to the people. 1 year that was about application of the Panchamahabhutas in the day-to-day life, scientific application. So by these thoughts we go to the people, because as has been already told, that this is Swadeshi science movement. We are not just talking about what was done by Kadad and say Brahmagupta. We are also talking about people here who are here, or who are just here until recently, and they have contributed so much to science, though world may not say anything, but they have changed our life. And thus, this year, M.S. Swaminathan, the great personality, who is considered to be father of Green Revolution in India. And those who are born in 60s will know that in their childhood there used to be ration shops and people stood in queue to get rice and wheat, and that wheat used to be such third-rate quality that today you will not even touch it. But it was like something given to the beggar. We were considered beggars. And then associating with Dr. Borlaug, and with the help of Indian Council of Agricultural Research, the scientists or teams, very sincerely there was an effort, and India became a producer who can give to others. And this was a change. And today you know that India often dictates diplomatically, saying that if you are against us, we will not give you wheat. We can say that because we have it. If we did not have wheat, and if we were begging around, would you have been able to say that? No. But we are masters now. Well, credit goes to such personalities, not one, but so many more. But we need to celebrate. And why do we celebrate? Because in the mind of young people, we have to inculcate the concept of pride, national pride. It's not just the Lavoisier and Priestley and these previous people. Their work was great, no doubt. But we are, as Indians, still very good. So, just to tell you that one year, we had screened a film, Parmanu, and none less than Rajagopal Chidambaram, the architect of that explosion, very elderly man, he had come, he stayed here for 2 days, interacted with our teachers and students. A great thing it was. Can you imagine a person who shook the world practically, especially the calculations of sub-kiloton explosion. He explained it on board to the teachers, which the Western world could not even think that India can do it. So, what is this attempt? We try to inculcate our pride that India has science, and films is our means to reach to the people. Now, for teachers, we have science communication workshop, which is executed earlier. Then there are school outreach programs wherein, as has been mentioned, we'll be reaching out to 100 schools with the message of the life of M.S. Swaminathan. During the main festival, which will be conducted from 29th January to 1st, 29th will be inauguration, and there will be an open film, a very good film will be screened, and along with it there will be some scientist who will interact with the audience. It's a great opportunity, open to all, no tickets. Then from the second day onwards, there are films mainly for the students of schools. And this year, these films will be shown in addition to the Inox, where we every year show that. it will be also, these will be shown also in 3 places, that is Sankelim and Madgaon and Kankor, because those students find it very difficult to travel all the way to Goa, all the way to Panji, and then go back after the event, and that's why we are doing it. It will involve a lot of organization, lot of preparation, but I'm sure we'll be able to manage it. We have an expo, science expo called as Kutuhal, very interesting one. There is something called as Indian Knowledge System, workshop on Indian Knowledge System, because many people still don't understand what were our forefathers learning and how could they become so proficient and so skilled, and there was no unemployment and there was no hunger in this country. How was it possible? The seeds of that, the concepts of that are in Indian knowledge system. So that will be one special workshop. There will be other workshops like robotics, then reel making for students, and also science filmmaking. This is usually 2-3 days event, but enrolled students get training in that. A very interesting program is Know the Scientists. There will be several luminaries who will be visiting the venue during those days, and we facilitate the students to talk, interact with those scientists. And as you know already, that most possibly, let's say, in addition to Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, there will be Professor Bhushan Patwardhan, former chairman of UGC. Then Professor Sanjay Deshmukh himself will be there. Our own Professor Shikhar Mande, Director General of CSIR, he will be there. And in fact, there is a very long list. I will not tell it now because we need further confirmation. These are all confirmed ones I just mentioned to you. So this is a program. Yeah, one more thing I forgot to tell you about is Vaigyanika. See, the village students, especially from the remote corners, Sattari or Sangye or Kankor, there are places where children cannot do hands-on experiments. And we need to bring them into the field of science, attract them there. So for them, there is a 2 days workshops devoted to the students and in various sciences. Of course, this is all focused at school students, this particular one. So it is a student science village called as Vigyanika. So like this, we have several events. A few more may be added. Nothing will be less from this list. A few may be added as per our, greater reach to different places. So this is the outline what we have. Those are going to be 4 very exciting days, and people should come. Don't say that it is something nothing because it's free of charge. It's free of charge because Government of Goa is very generous, very, very generous, and they take the main responsibility or shoulder the expenditure and facilitate all the other things. We have other partners here like National Institute of Oceanography, Goa University, Indian Council of Agricultural Research, what is called a CCARI, that's the Coastal Research Center. Then we have NCPOR. And then we are associated with all these colleges where you may not believe, but we have very, very eminent teachers who are recognized in the country and abroad. Here I have with me Dr. Manoj Borkar. Here you may not know him, you may meet him in Madgaon market. But outside, he is a person to be respected. So like this, we have people right here in Goa. So many of them. Let us meet them, and that will give more confidence to our students. They'll have national pride. They'll not say that India had no science, which was said in 1830, that Indians are stupid and they have no science. Today, they won't dare to say that. But first of all, we must believe in ourselves. That is what is lacking still. So please, I solicit your active participation, involvement, and bring your friends also to join in, and we will have a great science movement in Goa. Thank you very much.
Currently holds the position of Professor and Head Department of Life Sciences at Mumbai University, having an extensive educational background with degrees in science and law and 2 honorary DSc degrees. As the former and the youngest Vice Chancellor of University of Mumbai, Professor Deshmukh aimed at developing skills to prepare students for the professional world. Professor Deshmukh's expertise extends beyond national boundaries with extensive research conducted in over 50 countries. He is recognized as a PhD guide in various subjects including geography at Ohio State University, Columbus, USA, and also as a PhD guide in botany, life sciences, biotechnology, and environmental sciences at the University of Mumbai. His policy work, both in national and international levels, has had a lasting impact on countries, intergovernmental agencies, and the Government of India. As president of NGO Konkani Manch, Professor Deshmukh played a prime role in bridging the gap between technology, and the Manch received 2 national level awards for exceptional efforts in bamboo reforestation and village development, emphasizing sustainable practices and environmental conservation. An elected fellow of scientific bodies and academics such as Indian Society of Plant Genetic Resources, Mangrove Society of India, the National Environmental Science Academy, the International Society of Science and Technology, Lead India, and the Society of Biosciences in India. Professor Deshmukh's expertise contributes to various scientific disciplines, establishes himself as an exemplary academic leader. Professor Deshmukh's transformative work continues to shape research fields and inspires scientists and scholars. We are extremely happy to have you with us today, sir. Your presence has indeed brought a new and added vitality to Vigyan Parishad Goa. With a loud applause, let us greet the presence of Professor Deshmukh. This requires a thunderous applause, a loud thunderous applause.
सर्वप्रथम गोव्याची जी राज्यभाषा आहे, मला कोकणी येत नाही, परंतु मराठी सुद्धा मला असं वाटतं की एक भगिनी भाषा म्हणून तिला एक तेवढाच मान आहे, आणि म्हणून एक 2-3 मिनिटं मला असं वाटतं की मी मराठीत बोललं तर ते संयुक्तिक ठरेल, आणि त्यानंतर अर्थात मी इंग्रजीत माझं बोलणं सुरू करेन. आजच्या या कार्यक्रमाला मला प्रकर्षाने जयंतरावांची आठवण होते, ज्यांच्याबरोबर अनेकदा मला चर्चा करण्याची संधी मिळाली. विशेषतः आपल्या कामाचा उपयोग समाजासाठी कसा करता येईल याविषयी त्यांचा आग्रह आणि प्रयत्न हे नक्कीच प्रेरणादायी होते, असं मला मुद्दाम सांगावंसं वाटतं. त्याचबरोबर त्यांना झालेला दुर्दैवी अपघात आणि त्यानंतर दिवसागणिक त्यांच्या तब्येतीत होत जाणारी सुधारणा आणि नंतर अचानक झालेला त्यांचा जीवनाचा प्रवास संपण्याचा दिवस, याच्यामध्ये मोठ्या आशेने असं नेहमीच वाटत होतं की ते त्यातून बाहेर येतील, परंतु नियतीच्या मनात काहीतरी वेगळं होतं, आणि म्हणून त्यांनी हा जो उपक्रम सुरू केला, ज्याला यावर्षी 10 वर्ष पूर्ण होत आहेत, त्याला त्यांच्या त्या प्रयत्नांना तेवढ्याच आत्मीयतेने साथ दिलेल्या आदरणीय स्वर्गीय श्री पर्रीकर सरांची, मनोहर पर्रीकर, आणि त्यांचे असंख्य सहकारी, या सर्वांना मी आज या निमित्ताने विनम्र अभिवादन करतो. Honorable Chairperson of this event, who was going to preside over this program, Honorable Professor Menon sir, we met in the afternoon, and for want of deviation of his flight, which was scheduled to leave at 8:45 p.m., but he was informed that the overbooking of the flight has necessitated a situation where he has to take an alternative flight arranged by the concerned airline at 4 o'clock, 5 hours ahead of his scheduled time. And he was feeling so bad that he's not going to be here for this occasion, not to listen to me, but to be with all of you, to share this particular important moment, to announce and share the program on the occasion of completion of 1 decade of Science Film Festival of India. And therefore, in his absence, I would like to remember him very fondly. And Godse sir, who is also the Vice Chairman of the organizing committee of the Science Film Festival of India, I would like to express my grateful thanks to him for agreeing to preside over this program and explain to all of us the nitty-gritties of the entire event that is going to be organized in honor of my mentor and guru, Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, with whom I started my career soon after my PhD. We have amongst us Shri Prasad Rangnekar, about whose contribution and commitment for societal development is known to Goa. And despite spending 20 years in United Kingdom, he always had in his mind that he has to ensure that he will do something for his country. And therefore, half of that 20 years' time, he spent shuttling between UK and India and never took a permanent residency, so that he could continue to be here. And for the last 8 years, he has been very, very actively involved in various activities with respect to spreading awareness, educating people, igniting young minds, and contributing for overall development of the state of Goa as a commitment for his lifetime. We are grateful to you, Prasad sir, for this great thought. We have Samir Patil sir. I think currently he is the controller of examinations of the University of Goa, and a humble person that he is, as all of you may be aware. I happened to meet him this afternoon also, and I was quite impressed by his personality and humbleness. We have amongst us in the August gathering Honorable Vice Chancellor. I believe once a Vice Chancellor is always a Vice Chancellor. So I don't call them former or ex, they're always there. And I don't expect that to be referred to me as such, but in the United States we always say President Clinton, President Obama. I think we should start practicing that, because it is only appropriate to refer to eminent personalities who lead the universities and are guardians of thousands of young minds whose careers and life they continue to shape. We have Dr. Arvind Sharan, we have Dr. Usurlikar, Dr. Kunkalkar, Dr. Balaji Bhatt. I overheard Rangnekar sir mentioning Ganesh Bhatt instead of Balaji Bhatt, because Ganesh has been his IIT Bombay friend from his childhood, and probably he, due to oversight, said it, and I noted it down because I was wanting to just acknowledge each and every one of them, and just wanted to confirm with him, and he said, no, it is not Ganesh, it is Balaji sir. But nevertheless, I admire that in the back of your mind you have your old-time friends who have been with you in thick and thin and inspire you throughout your life, the way he has mentioned his name. Shri Dr. Manoj Borkar, whom I have not seen in Madgaon market, but he has inspired me during my college days and thereafter. And I am astonished by the way he has developed himself and the generation of girls, because he teaches in Carmel College, that's why I am talking about girls. And one of the most outstanding scholars that I have come across in my life, not because he is my friend, but as a third person when I look at the talent that is around in our country. He deserves to be at a different level instead of where he is today. Of course, it is also a very coveted position of professor, but he could be at a different level had he picked up and got some of the opportunities which probably the destiny had different thought in mind. And I must tell you that probably 5 to 10 years from now, and you will remember me if that happens, I am sure it will happen. And Manoj could be one of the Jnanapith awardees for the contribution of his poems to the literary world of Konkani language. The way he has been conceiving and writing poems in Konkani, I don't know Konkani much, but I can only compare that by feeling the meaning of those words, which I try to understand what they are. I remember Visa Khandekar or Vidya Karandikar, and I'm sure Manoj is going to be there one day. His wife Nama is here, and many friends of mine were here. I have my old-time friend Miss Sucheta Naik, and I was thinking that this voice can be a voice in the United Nations. Where if you look at the way the pronunciation, the pitching, and the depth of feelings with which this comparing has been done, I think it is very important that we have people who, with their commitment and zeal to express themselves effectively, can make a difference. And therefore I feel that there has been a lot of expectation. A bar has already been raised by my predecessors who spoke before me, and I have a greater responsibility to talk about somebody. I do not know whether I deserve to be called his foster son, but yes, whatever I am today is only and only because of a person called Dr. M.S. Swaminathan. And it's a great privilege that I am here before you to deliver the first of the 100 lectures or orations that are going to be conducted by the Vigyan Parishad of Goa in honor of the birth centennial year of Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, which began on 7th of August this year, where if alive he would have completed 99 years. And it's a great initiative, and I must congratulate the government of Goa for this initiative taken by Vigyan Parishad, supported wholeheartedly, and the partner organizations including NIO and many colleges who are partners, along with several NGOs who are contributing to this particular unique event that will be celebrated over the next 2 months to begin with, and it will continue till 7th of August and beyond. We had a very inspiring divine invocation by Miss Kali, and despite the fact that there was no background Tanpura recorded version, it conveyed that Goddess Saraswati is very much around in the ambience of this hall, and she was able to invoke her by her divine voice. We are grateful to you, madam. Miss Shilpa Devdar and Shubhangi madam also played their important role of contributing to welcoming the August gathering and some of us, and I must acknowledge their presence and contribution to this program. It is said that on Makara Sankranti, the sun god gets into Makara Rashi and changes the destiny of the world. That is what it is said. And therefore, on the auspicious day of Makara Sankranti, people look forward to something which will bring prosperity, peace, good health, happiness, and whatever they desire because of this transition of sun into Makara Rashi. On 14th of January 1988, at 1:45 a.m., there was a boy waiting for an eminent personality at Mumbai airport at Santa Cruz. There was no Sahar airport active or in operation to the extent. Rather, it was not functional probably. And he receives a person, takes him to Vikroli, where he is going to be staying just for a few hours. He arrived from Geneva and wanted to go to New Delhi the next day. He was the president of WWF India and the vice president at that time, Shri Sorabji Godrej, the chairman and managing director of Godrej group of companies, had entrusted that responsibility upon that boy and had told him that you have to receive this person, take him to the guest house of Vikroli, and next day before he leaves the Pirojsha Nagar premises of Vikroli, he has to be taken to a 4,000 acre of mangrove forest which is under the control or rather ownership of Sunabai Pirojsha Godrej, the late mother of Sorabji, in whose name the foundation was established, and it is custodian of 4,000 acres of mangrove forest. It is also called as lungs of Mumbai. The cost of that land is 500 crores per acre if you want to develop it. You can imagine the family like Godrej or Tatas, who are nation builders, have been able to maintain such dignity in preserving our forest and providing reprieve to the lives of the citizens of this country. That boy was myself, the person was Dr. Swaminathan, and he entered my life on the day of Makara Sankranti, and I never imagined that what people believe will happen with me, the change in my life thereafter, was evident from the fact that what was read about me by Sucheta was of course written by me, so it looked very rosy and practically very, very inspiring. But yes, it is true, because in the 36 years that I have been living with Dr. Swaminathan, initially physically being in the organization where I started my career, and thereafter in the form of memory, where every moment I remember him, and I believe that people like him are rare to happen to the country like India. And Dr. Swaminathan looked at that mangrove forest the following morning from a watchtower. I was doing my PhD in that area. And he said, Sanjay, you are preserving these genetic resources of mangroves by cultivating them, developing a nursery, planting them in the barren areas, and collecting them from different parts of the state. So these are genetic resources, and we require these genetic resources for overcoming the problems of global warming and sea level rise, where these are the only plants or group of plants which possess the ability to withstand the salinity, which is basically physiologically dead zone for any other plant community. But mangroves are the only groups or group of plants of 97 species throughout the world which have the ability to withstand salinity and also tolerate the seawater intrusion partially, because at the time of high tide there is a submersion of parts of mangroves, and then there is exposure when the low tide happens. And that gave birth to a concept of development of transgenic plants by identification of candidate genes from mangrove forests. And he asked me, Sanjay, will you work with me? He had received the $1 million award just the previous year which is called the alternate Nobel Prize in the field of agriculture, the World Food Prize. And with that, he set up his own foundation, and he wanted people to join him to complement the efforts of the government of India to conduct research and developmental work, which will only supplement the efforts and achieve what we call it as sustainable development through research from lab to land. And I had applied for a fellowship at Miami. I committed myself, and in 1990, on 18th of December, I joined his foundation. By that time, I was a second employee. Before that, one colleague of mine had joined. But what I'm trying to say here is that after superannuation, at the age of 65, a person starts or dreams of doing something and invests his prize money of $1 million and other savings into setting up a foundation, and 35, 36 years beyond that, 1988 to 2023, remains active and achieves something which I have written in one of my articles upon him. His career of 50 years, active career of 45, 50 years before superannuation, and comparatively post-retirement 30 years. His achievements in the post-retirement 30 years are twice the achievements of his entire lifetime, and it doesn't happen. So what I'm trying to say is that this person was not just agricultural scientist, but a great human being. He took clue from Sir C.V. Raman, who set up a similar organization but could not sustain because of want of corpus fund. And he advised Dr. Swaminathan that you set up similar organization and make it sustainable. And in those 35 years, he was able to gather through his lectures, through seeking donations, through funds, 125 crores of rupees as corpus for his foundation, single-handedly. I have seen an honorarium of $10,000 on a check for one of his lectures in 2004. You can imagine the level at which this person was able to gather funds, and entire amount that he was able to accrue such efforts was part of his foundation's corpus fund. It's very difficult to have such people born on this earth. People used to call him living Gandhi till the day he was around, and then of course he merged with nature on 28th of September last year. What I'm trying to say is not importance about what I have achieved or what I have been able to accomplish, but through the 11 slides that I have prepared, there are hardly 11 slides I want to show you, and the angles, the way in which he lived, the way in which he perceived his commitment to the nation. It was mentioned by Sucheta about the Bengal famine. That was one of the turning points of his life. He had done his BSc botany and then BSc agriculture. And then he was selected for UPSC and he was granted IPS. But instead of going to Missouri, he chose to go to UK and Holland, of course, by ship, and do his PhD over there, and then of course went to US and came back. So this is the way in which people perceive. His father was a very eminent doctor in Kumbakonam, and he had seen his father contributing to providing a second life to the patients that he treated. And this Bengal famine was a turning point in his life, where he chose to opt for a career where there was no future, known future for anybody who ventured into getting into agriculture sector. But yes, the then Prime Minister was very keen that the talent of our country should be contributing for building nation. And Dr. Swaminathan, along with people like Homi Bhabha, then Vikram Sarabhai, so many such eminent, and of course the industrial families like Tata and Birlas and Godrej's, I think they built this nation over the period of time. But the most important contribution, I feel, that the dwarf varieties of wheat which were developed by Norman Borlaug were, of course, in the cold storage. They were developed, but America did not want them. There was no requirement. And the potential of those were identified or felt by Dr. Swaminathan a few years after they were developed and recommended to our team of politicians led by Sir Shri C. Subramaniam, who was the agriculture minister, our own Anna Sahib Shinde from Vidarbha region, who was state minister for agriculture for over 11 years, who really contributed a great deal to defining policies along with Sir Shri Subramaniam. And those policies, along with the financial brain of Shri Bhutalingam, who was the finance secretary of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, I think they were the political and financial brain behind Green Revolution, and of course Dr. Swaminathan was the scientific brain. And within 4 years between 1965 and 1969, the productivity of our nation was so much that in the preceding 4,000 years collectively, if you calculate the total production of India in the preceding 4,000 years, that was matched by 4 years of Green Revolution crops. So there may be a discussion, debate on whether Green Revolution was required, whether it brought true benefit to the nation or it spoiled the soil health and so on. But I personally and the world would, the history will always remember that it was a need of the hour, and Dr. Swaminathan contributed to that to a level, and he was so visionary that within 4 years after that, I think in 1971 Varanasi Science Congress, Indian Science Congress, he mentioned that now the Green Revolution has happened. We'll have to look at going back to our roots and look at the integrated intensive farming systems, where the evergreen revolution will have to be the future of our country. And you must have seen in the speeches of the Honorable President of India in mid-90s, there was a mention of evergreen revolution, which was envisioned by Dr. Swaminathan, even before taking fruits of green revolution to the extent that we have been doing it today. I personally feel that such visionary outlook, the World Food Prize, he was chairman of the World Food Prize Selection Committee, and in an unprecedented move, he ensured that a World Food Prize is given to a person who had not even completed his matriculation, but ensured that the seeds which were important from the point of view of green technology, green revolution, were brought in market in the form of genetically modified seeds, or what we call it as hybrid seeds. And the spread of that message on bicycle by selling the seeds from village to village, he ensured that person would be a strong candidate for getting World Food Prize. It cannot happen in today's context. In 86 he got the World Food Prize, that was the first, then he became the chairman of the selection committee. And he ensured that that person who had gone to jail after 8th standard for the call of quit India and other things, and his name is Shri Badrinarayan Barwale, the chairman of Mahiko. So you can imagine the way he has been able to conceive and consult the conglomeration of scientists and convince them that, look, this is the way you should look at the world. Education is not the only solution, but yes, education is important. But the application of your thoughts for societal development is something which is extremely important, and it requires such recognition. Even the Nobel Prize written speech Norman Borlaug delivered in 71, I think he got Nobel Prize. Dr. Swaminathan was in the audience, and he ensured that he will acknowledge the contribution of Dr. Swaminathan, because of whose vision his hybrid varieties were actually introduced in India and the eastern part of the world, where we achieved green revolution. Even before India, Eastern African region, Pakistan and Eastern Asian region, they had started this activity, but India was able to prove that it was not a fluke, that it became self-sufficient. And as Godse sir mentioned about the quality of wheat, they must have been young generation those days, we were not even born. How that wheat would be tasting and how they would be procuring it in the queues in front of the ration shops. So I think this is something which we have to understand. You must be aware about one of the first bureaucrats, Dr. T.N. Seshan. He was the first among the many Indians who received the Magsaysay Award. And you know, how he got it? He got it because of his ability, because of his competence. But you require somebody to identify that ability. And Dr. Swaminathan was the chairman of the Magazine Award selection committee. And year after TN session got it, one Indian every year is getting it after that. And Dr. Swaminathan, then Prakash Amte, he had gone to meet Baba Amte, he was on bed in the later years of his life. He saw the work and just met him once and saw the entire project of Himal Kasa. That year Prakash Amte sir got Magazine Award. So father and son duo. I think there are so many examples. 85 honorary doctorates, out of which more than 52 he has received after 1988 when he had already retired. And at least 150 honorary doctorates he refused to receive. Otherwise, every university out of 1131 that we have in India would have felt privileged to give him honorary DSc, because they would be honored by giving a DSc. I was very fortunate during my tenure as a Vice Chancellor. He became the only 29th person in the 160 years, those days, history of university to receive that award, DSc. And Dr. Swaminathan sir was in tears. He said, my own university, Madras University, never gave me honorary DSc because I am Brahmin. So there was a spirit in Tamil Nadu which still prevails, that you judge the person based on in which family is born. And that's what is happening in the Western world. As somebody rightly says, he would have got Nobel by that time for the work that was done. Even the work that we did through this project and my colleague Dr. Ajay Parida, identification of those candidate genes and developing varieties of rice which will survive in salt water and give the same production. It's a miracle, but that recognition is not there. So the slide which I want to show you is beyond this. He has 3 daughters. He never felt he should have a son. And all the 3 daughters, Soumya, the eldest, she was the first who became the DG of ICMR, the Indian Council of Medical Research. She was the director of Tuberculosis Research Institute in Chennai for several years, a product of AFMC Pune. Met her life partner in Dr. Ajit Yadav, one of the very renowned orthopedic surgeons. Dr. Swaminathan felt, no problem. It's not that you should marry only a Brahmin and all that. We should be Brahmin by karma, not by birth only. Second daughter, Madhura, an eminent agricultural economist, found her match in Dr. Ramachandran. And he is from Kerala. He is now currently the Deputy Chairman of Planning Commission of Kerala. Youngest daughter Nitya is in Norwich currently, Professor of Humanities. Her husband Sudhir Rao is from Andhra. They were in Anand, Irma. So this is the way this entire family, his wife Meena Swaminathan, she was a great educationist and looked through educating young girl children and women through the street plays and through different devices which will educate them. And there was a form like our what we call it as in Konkan Dashavatar, there is a form, it is called Kattai Kuttu. And through that dance form, performing art, she was able to bring in that transformation. And she happened to be the daughter of Shri Bhutalingam, who was the finance secretary of Pandit Nehru. So, an entirely committed family to the cause. And so I feel personally, if you Google, you will never find a Nobel laureate with 85 honorary DSCs or doctorates. So Nobel is not just important, but yes, he was much deserving candidate for that. And 27 years, I remember from 1988, every year at least 20-25 countries would nominate him for Nobel Prize. He couldn't get it. But nevertheless, I want to mention all this because this is one occasion where all of us will understand that agricultural scientists can be so much important to the world. There was we were talking about sustainability. Before that, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi was the one who talked about poverty is linked with environment. We have tropical belt of our world. 77% of our biodiversity is the tropical belt. but 77% of the world who are under poverty line, they are also in the tropical belt. So the biodiversity rich nations are economically poor, and that was first voiced in Stockholm Conference in 72, and in 92 when we had this UNCAD at Rio, people started talking about sustainability. I think the sustainability word itself was coined in a way that it needed an attention of the world, but it was not truly percolated to the level at which we still talk about SDGs and all that, but we are not able to achieve those targets, and every time we enhance those deadlines by 5 years, 10 years and so on. But people like Dr. Swaminathan, there was a forest in Guyana. The president of Guyana had offered 1 million hectares of untouched forest. If you fly over the forest, you will not see the ground. That was a kind of 100% plant cover. And he offered 1 million hectares of forest, stating that I am offering this to the world. You use it and tell us the definition how it is actually implemented in terms of sustainable utilization of our resources. So the committee was chaired by Dr. Swaminathan. I was at that time with him. I joined Swaminathan Foundation. And the committee flew over through the helicopter and inspected that area and came out with a document. So look at sustainable practices, providing solutions to the world, identifying processes for peace, where the committee which is called Pugwash Foundation, there was a foundation set up by Nobel laureates to overcome the problems of world wars, which were basically an outcome of E is equal to mc square. Einstein had developed a formula, and then you know the ill effects of the atom bomb and so on. So to nullify that, this committee was set up. Dr. Swaminathan was the only person who became the chairman who was not a Nobel laureate. So to that level, world required him, and he was always there to help the world for whatever purpose it could be, whether it is beneficial to India or not. He was always available. So from population problems to hunger, to setting up institutions, to building young minds, to provide exposure to people who would not even think of doing something in life, but he touched the lives of those, and I think it was rest is history. I'm not just giving my own example because I'm a very small individual, but yes, I think there was a great transformation that has happened in several people. I came back to Mumbai after 5 years because my commitment to my parents was there, that I would be with them. And Dr. Swaminathan was astonished that in my generation people have commitment to doing something with their parents and being with them till they are around. And I didn't go abroad, but I traveled 80 times out of India in my life. And thanks to those qualities which were imbibed within me by Dr. Swaminathan. Manoj is one such example. Never left his parents, never took up a university job because he wanted to be closer to them. And he wanted to be rushing whenever they required. So he said, no, university job will be a little far away from me. How many people will do that? But nevertheless, I think let us look at these slides, because we are talking about the life and work of Dr. Swaminathan. And I want you to look at these slides. And this is the title, of course, Beyond the Noble Lessons from a Life of Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, dedicated to science for society. There are only 11 slides. I'm going to read out and give some examples along with that. The central theme of his life in this presentation, I may be delivering 25 lectures in next 22 months that Vigyan Parishad is planning, and it will be a privilege to talk on 25 different aspects of Dr. Swaminathan's contribution. So this is just an overview, and I'll come back again to talk to the children of schools and colleges. The key insights: science with a human face. Dr. Swaminathan emphasized the fusion of science with empathy and social equity. The organization that he set up was called M.S. Swaminathan Foundation. There is a Center for Sustainable Agriculture and Rural Development, was the name of the registered center through his foundation. His work had global relevance, where agricultural innovations addressed food insecurity far beyond India. a legacy beyond awards. As I said, he received so many awards, and they were innumerable. We couldn't even think of at what level, from which organizations he was recognized. His impact transcends accolades, including the Nobel Prize, highlighting sustainable development. His vision was transformational, where empowering communities was the main purpose. We had one of the largest gene banks by NBPGR, which was set up. But the time when we had Green Revolution, there were at least 75,000 varieties of only one crop, like rice. And they are called, what we call it as land races, which were preserved by our communities. And they were useful for overcoming any problem in respective agroclimatic regions of our country. But he envisaged that these varieties are going to be lost if the Green Revolution is going to take place. And he set up the gene banks, but by that time we did not have that much capacity to hold that kind of collection. So he ensured that through IRI, the International Rice Research Institute, 55,000 of those land races were preserved in the form of genetic resources. And in Svalbard, one of the Scandinavian regions where this village Svalbard, where the gene bank for the global community of agricultural scientists and the communities was established, where 300 million samples could be stored there, and they can be freely accessible by the people who would keep them. That was the kind of vision, because he felt that due to any reason, if we lose our genetic resources, then how do we overcome that? For mangroves, he was the first to talk about overcoming global warming and sea level rise, because these are the only communities which could give you those salt tolerant genes. Later on, our foundation conducted research on drought tolerant plants like acacia and that is babur, Veda babur they call it in Marathi. And they were able to transform some of the plants for 32 days of water withdrawal. So the seedlings were growing without offering water. In 32 days they had the same growth without having water. So that was the kind of salt tolerant or rather drought tolerant genes they were able to, at our foundation, we were able to develop those technologies. In transformational vision, empowering communities, we set up a gene bank in Swaminathan Foundation, where farmers from Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, they would keep their seeds, which were like in Koraput region of Andhra Pradesh, more than 4,000 different varieties of seeds of different millets and crops like bajra and other crops are preserved by the communities which are from the forest, the Adivasi communities, tribal people. Those were also encouraged to set up their own collections in the foundation. And the way in which it has transformed the entire outlook of the government of India through ICAR. I think he believed that we all have ethical responsibility for achieving scientific progress, but we should be having that progress grounded in moral obligations towards humanity and nature. Seeds of revolution, I have spoken a little bit about Green Revolution. The early influences he had, foundations of a mission where I talked about his childhood experience, which instilled a deep empathy for farmers, education in agricultural science besides in botany, then global exposure, interaction with global pioneers like Norman Borlaug and many other scientists, and shaping the hunger alleviation mission, where early focus of Dr. Swaminathan addressed hunger through agricultural advancements. A visionary execution of Green Revolution, where I mentioned about high yielding wheat, which was recognized by Dr. Swaminathan, developed by Dr. Norman Borlaug and introduced in Indian region. Initial skepticism was addressed by overcoming resistance, and the impact of that on our country was, of course, it's a history, but self-sufficiency that we attained, I think it was one of the major contributions of Dr. Swaminathan. Policy integration, and most importantly, the agreement by farmers that they would participate in the Green Revolution experiment was one of the biggest investments that the government had done, and the rewards that it got through the farmers' appreciation and concurrence in practicing green agricultural farming, green revolution agricultural crop farming. Beyond the revolution, expanding horizons through his foundation, as I said, between 1988 and 2018, he was able to look at the National Agricultural Academy of Sciences, which was set up by him, and ICAR, of course, he led as the Director General, one of the youngest DGs of ICAR. And he not only led these institutions, but he also looked at the rural poverty through innovations aimed at marginalized farmers. Foundation or founding MSSRF in 1988, about which I have mentioned, and this foundation had 5 major programs. One was coastal systems research, which was inspired by the visit that he made to Vikhroli, where I was able to take him around. And that was the first program area he conceived on that particular day at that moment. He said, my first program area would be coastal systems research. Second was biodiversity. Third was reaching the unreached. How do we reach the unreached people sections of society by blending traditional technology with modern technology? And how do we develop the concept of bio-villages? He developed this name, coined so many such words, bio-villages, where the farmers could become self-sufficient. FAO was inspired by this experiment, and IIFM, Integrated Intensive Farming Systems, IIFS, a project run across 10 agroclimatic regions of our country. He developed a model through conducting research in the areas where people did not go for green revolution technologies and practiced IIFS systems of farming and having the same amount of benefits as the green revolution crops would give. Today we don't have patience, we want quick results, but IIFS technology can lead us to what we call it as evergreen revolution. Empowerment of farmers happened through that effort, and climate resilient agriculture was basically the seeds of that concept were sown in late 80s when this foundation started its work. There was a hub and spoke model where in the coastal regions, the young girls who could not go to colleges or schools, they were trained to operate computers and interpret the information on weather patterns. How do we interpret the satellite images to mark the changes in the climate? And in 300 villages in the east coast of India, these village models were developed, and the Gram Panchayat would offer about 200 square feet of room where these girls will sit, interpret the weather patterns, and announce through the loudspeakers. Those days, there was no distinction between, the masjid or mandir or a gurudwara or a church. Everywhere those loudspeakers will be there, allowed to be set up there. And they will announce whether on that particular day the fishermen should go for fishing. And when tsunami happened, actually on that day in these 300 villages, they could see those satellite images and they found something different. And they announced in those 300 villages, don't go for fishing today. And those hundreds of lives of fishermen were saved because of this one single announcement. The kind of vision that Dr. Swaminathan had in providing opportunities for uneducated to stand on their own feet, so they may not have access to education. This was something I think which is remarkable. We started reforestation of mangroves in the coastal areas in Nagapattinam and all that. In 90s we developed those, what we call it as JMM, Joint Mangrove Management. We call it JFM, Joint Forest Management. We developed that concept, and people in the coastal areas were given employment under Manrega schemes, where you just help us in planting mangroves and maintain, and you draw the benefits by catching fish there, rearing crabs there, and you can do anything but don't cut mangroves and help us in planting them and protecting them. We'll give you daily wages. That was the kind of model. And when tsunami hit, those barriers, the ecological barriers through mangroves, they saved the villages behind those plantations. So 15 years later, when we started that work in 91, 92, 2006, 2007, I think tsunami hit. But those mangroves had grown up to 20 feet, 30 feet, and 1 kilometer, half a kilometer width of mangroves. So they saved that 700 kilometers per hour force of tsunami, and the villages behind that were saved. So that was a kind of vision that Dr. Swaminathan had. He looked into the future and implemented what was required for the benefit of nation. He believed in science and society. He established with the help of Tata Foundation what we call it as virtual university, where from each district they would identify 15 young minds, most of them will be girls, women, where they have informal innovations in conservation, and those will be gathered together, about 250 from entire country, 5 days workshop every month, and over a period of 1 year, 5 days per month into 12 months, and they will get the scholarship or fellowship of that virtual academy, Tata MSSRF Virtual Academy, and those young minds, 240, 250 young children will be given fellowships of that academy, and then they would be getting about 1,000 rupees per month thereafter through the Tata Foundation. In Maharashtra, there was a model of Ladki Bahin, dear sister, but I think that was the way the women were encouraged to identify informal innovations and then earn something, not just a bonus, but of course today everything is important, which helps you to build our nation. Advocacy for equity, pro-poor technologies, pro-poor, pro-women and pro-nature was one of the motto of Dr. Swaminathan's foundation. He empowered women and smallholders through developing and focusing marginalized groups to participate in the agricultural innovations. There are a lot of things that one can talk about. As I mentioned, there are 100 lectures on 100 topics. I think we are going to make 100 short films on 100 traits of Dr. Swaminathan. We have already prepared a proposal. Prasadji already, I have discussed with him. But these are the kind of things which one cannot imagine. One person can have so many qualities. Slide number 6, partnerships with FAO. He was an independent chairman of FAO once upon a time. Collaboration with Dr. Jacques Diouf. He developed strategies for combating global hunger, safeguarding genetic resources, and with the partnership with Dr. Carrie Fowler, he contributed to the establishment of Svalbard Global Seed Vault. As I mentioned, it was established in Scandinavian region. Preserving biodiversity for future generations. That was one of his very important contributions, where he ensured long-term food security through genetic resources preservation. The climate crisis, where sustainable agriculture for a changing world was a model that he developed, and climate resilient farming was the concept, where collaboration on soil health. In 91 we had developed a soil health card which you could have and go to the bank and show the card, which will give you the details of the soil quality that the agricultural farmer has in his land, whatever marginalized farmer they were. And based on the soil health card, the bank will grant you loan, how much the ability of the soil is to regenerate or to produce, and based on that the loan will be sanctioned. Today we are talking about soil health card for last 5-6 years, but that was standardized by us in 1991. So these are the kind of ahead of time thoughts. Dr. Ratan Lal was one of his deputies, and soil conservation practices and carbon sequestration was demonstrated. Mangroves are the second largest sequesters of carbon, and bamboo is the largest sequester of carbon. So plantation of bamboo, plantation of mangrove, which is need of the hour, was practiced by the foundation involving the coastal communities. In almost 20,000 hectares of land, mangrove reforestation was successfully conducted under that Manrega scheme by joint mangrove management. IPCC contributions, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, he was never on the panel, but he encouraged people to be part of it and provided very, very valuable insights to climate adaptation strategies. I have seen so many people visiting foundation every week, every day, and they would get what they wanted in terms of guidance and wisdom.